Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the hidden meanings behind big companies' financial statements. Today we're diving into a filing from a company that's been making some major moves, and let's just say they're setting themselves up for a pretty big change, perhaps a bit of a split. DuPont de Nemours Inc., or as most of us know it, DuPont is filing what's called a Form 8K. It's like a current report that tells everyone about any major events that happened with the company. And this one from August 15, 2025 has some juicy details about a significant financial maneuver. Essentially, DuPont is getting ready to spin off its electronics business into a new company called Qnity. Think of it like splitting a big pie into two smaller but hopefully equally delicious pieces. Now, how do you fund a big spin-off like this? Well, you borrow money, and that's exactly what Qnity is doing. On August 15, 2025, Qnity, which is a wholly owned part of DuPont, issued two types of notes. First, they have $1 billion worth of senior secured notes due in 2032 with an interest rate of 5.750%. These are called secured notes because they are backed by specific assets of the company, sort of like putting up your house as collateral for a loan. Then they also issued $750 million in senior unsecured notes due in 2032 with an interest rate of 5.75%. These are called secured notes because they are backed by specific assets of the company, sort of like putting up your house as collateral for a loan. Then they also issued 752 with an interest rate of 5.75%. These are called secured notes because they are backed by specific assets of the company, sort of like putting up your house as collateral for a loan. Then they also issued $150 million in senior unsecured notes due in 23 with a slightly higher The whole point behind this borrowing spree is to fund a massive cash distribution to DuPont shareholders. We're talking about a hefty $4.1 billion plus some extra payments related to these new notes. This whole process is tied to a plan to separate out the electronics business, which they affectionately are calling the spin-off. The target date for this big split is November 1, 2025. Here's where it gets interesting. The money raised from selling these notes and the related interest deposit will be held in a special account called an escrow account. This money will only be released if and when the spin-off actually happens. If the spin-off doesn't happen by March 31, 2026, or if Qnity themselves decide it's not going to happen, then these notes will have to be bought back by the company. This is a way to protect the people who bought the notes, ensuring they get their money back if the deal falls apart. Think of it as an insurance policy for the investors. Let's dig a bit deeper into these secured notes. They were issued under an agreement called the Secured Notes Indenture, and they mature all the way in August 2032. That's a pretty long time. The interest is paid twice a year on February 15th and August 15th, with the first payment due February 15, 2026. Once the spin-off is complete, these secured notes will be backed by the assets of Qnity and its subsidiaries. Importantly, they will have the same priority as the loans that Qnity plans to get from banks, meaning they're on equal footing when it comes to getting paid back from the collateral. This is good news for the secured note holders as it means their investment is well protected. Now let's talk about how DuPont, or rather Qnity, can get out of these secured notes early. Before August 15, 2028, they can buy back these notes, but they have to pay back the full amount plus something called a make-whole premium and any unpaid interest. This premium is essentially a penalty for paying back early to compensate the investors for the interest they would have at specific 2028. They can still buy them back, but at specific prices. There's also a clause that allows them to redeem up to 40% of the notes using money from selling stock at a premium. And if there's a change in control of the company, they have to offer to buy back the notes at a slightly higher price, of course 101% of the face value. The agreement for these secured notes also includes what we call covenants. These are rules that Qnity has to follow to keep the loan agreement valid. These rules cover things like how much more debt they can take on how they can use their assets and what they can do if certain bad things happen like bankruptcy. If they break these rules or if certain events of default happen like missing payments, then the entire amount of the notes can become due immediately. This is standard practice to protect lenders. Moving on to the unsecured notes. These were also issued on August 15, 2025, and they mature a year later in August 2033. These notes carry a higher interest rate of 6.250 on February 15th and August 15th. February 15th and August 15th går vi efter en tag tasiga. Once the spin-off is done, these unsecured notes will be guaranteed by Qnity's subsidiaries. This guarantee means that if Qnity themselves can't pay, the subsidiaries promise to step in. However, since these are unsecured notes, these guarantees don't have any specific assets backing them, so they are considered senior unsecured, meaning they rank directly below secured debt, but above any other type of debt. Similar to the secured notes, Qnity has the option to redeem these unsecured notes early before August 15, 2028. They'd have to pay back the principal plus a make-whole premium and any interest. After August 15, 2028, they can redeem them at specified prices. They also have the option to redeem up to 40% of these notes. Using money from stock sales at a premium of 10.6.250, they have to pay them back at 101% of their face value. The unsecured notes also come with similar covenants to the secured notes, which means Qnity has to follow certain rules about debt borrowing, asset sales, and other business activities. They also have standard events of default, meaning if things go really wrong, like missed payments or broken rules, the entire amount owed on these notes can become due immediately. And so the document is signed off by Michael G. Goss, who holds the title Vice President and Controller for DuPont de Nemours Inc., which is exactly what you'd expect to see on a filing like this. So what's the big picture here? DuPont is preparing to spin off its electronics business into a separate company called Qnity. It's taking on significant debt by issuing secured and unsecured notes. This is a pretty common strategy for companies when they're undergoing major structural changes like a spin-off. The success of this plan hinges on the successful completion of the spin-off by November 1st and the proper management of this newly acquired debt at Qnity. If the spin-off doesn't happen, the money raised remains in escrow and the notes could be redeemed. It's a carefully orchestrated financial dance designed the money raised remains in escrow and the notes could be redeemed. It's a carefully orchestrated financial dance designed to separate business units while ensuring financial stability. Now for my take. DuPont is a historically strong company, and this move to spin off its electronics business seems strategic. It allows both the remaining DuPont business and the new Qnity business to focus on their specific markets and growth opportunities. The hefty debt taken on by Qnity is a significant factor to watch. While the secured notes offer a good degree of protection, the unsecured notes are riskier and their higher interest rate reflects that. The success of Qnity will depend on its ability to generate enough cash flow to service this debt and ultimately thrive as an independent entity. The make-whole clauses and change of control provisions in the note agreements are important details for investors to understand their rights and how Qnity can manage its debt early. The biggest risk here is a potential delay or failure of the spin-off itself. If that happens, the escrow mechanism is in place, but it could signal underlying issues with the business separation plan. Another risk is the overall economic environment and Qnity's ability to perform well in its specific market to manage the debt load. On the opportunity side, if the spin-off is successful and Qnity thrives as a focused electronics company, it could unlock significant value for shareholders of both companies. In conclusion, this filing shows a company actively managing its structure and finances to adapt to market dynamics. The debt issuance is a critical step in the spin-off process, and its execution will be key to the future success of both DuPont and the new Qnity entity. Keep an eye on $5 billion debt. Alright, that's our breakdown of DuPont's latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out our Discord in the description below, where we discuss these things further. Thanks for watching. See you next time.